let me get these out of the way. These are a pair of stools from John Dickinson. They're going to Sotheby's, New York, December sale. $10,000 to $15,000. They're very nice. I'm very happy with them. Let me put them away. Okay. And I will pull this chair that I bought from Ivan Boesky's estate in La Jolla. You know, the famous Wall Street guy, kind of before the Ponzi scheme. Well, the Ponzi scheme, but anyway, nice provenance. It's a nice Louis XVI chair. The blue painted, original paint. Really a wonderful piece. I'm going to sit down. It's going to be a rather long story we're going to talk about. So, what I'm going to talk about today is we're going to talk about my antique history, how I got into the business, how I started it, where I am today. I started in the early 90s. A friend of mine, Colby, my mentor, worked for two of the top galleries in San Francisco in the 70s. He worked for this guy, William Silva and Gerald Silvar. At that time, they were some of the nation's and the world's largest galleries for fine antiques. They had all these things like signed tables from France, Italian specimen marble. Everything was signed by like court-appointed cabinet makers of Louis XVI. Really a wonderful, look. I even went to San Francisco to the apartment to notice all these fabulous things. When William Silva retired, he retired with a $69 million estate in a house in Tiburon with nothing but Roman antiquities overlooking the whole ocean. It was this little tyrant guy that used to yell and scream, and my friend worked for him and drove his convertible Rolls Royce around San Francisco. Man, what a time it must have been. So anyway, he comes down in the 90s and kind of teaches me everything. I helped him move antiques, and then I'd go over, sit at his house, we'd hang out, and I'd start asking him questions, about a piece, or why is that good? Well, what's the bronze on that? What do you mean by the gallery? What do you mean by, the porcelain? And piece by piece, I ended up learning the business. And then I had an and then we started selling to the decorators and, privately in the '94. And then I had an opportunity to open up my own gallery in La Jolla in the historic Colonial Inn Hotel, an Edwardian hotel, turn of the century, around 1910, with 9 beautiful windows, very wonderful. And I filled it up with wonderful 19th, 18th century French, Italian, and English antiques. And we also did some modern things. My mom was the first archivist of Francois Gillot. She lived at Picasso from 40 to 53 and Jonas Salk. So we had all this, what I called mom's art. I grew up with it. So all these modern paintings mixed with the antiques. And actually, we're some of the first in the world to do this. Now it's been pretty popular to mix antiques with modern. We were doing this in the mid-90s. And it was a look. We really enjoyed it. So then what happened was I started doing all the trade shows, because back then the people really weren't into the antiques the way they are now. I'm going to shut this for a sec. They just really didn't, it was more of an international market. So I started doing all the trade shows in like Miami, Naples, Florida, Chicago, Pasadena, Santa Monica, Modesto for the Gallows. We did one, the wine place there. It was wonderful with, wine barrels as a backdrop. It was really neat. So I started doing all these trade shows, but then what happened was I couldn't fill up 1,000 square feet at the gallery and do the shows at the same time with 1,000 square feet of period antiques. So, and the rent was $2,300 a month, and at that time I had to literally live in the gallery and live in the car to support the antique business, because I couldn't get loans to do, the antiques. So, that's the kind of dues I had to pay. And when I would do these shows, it'd be, thousands of dollars for the hotels and the driving in the gas and all that stuff. With a gamble, you're not sure if you're going to sell anything or not, so you're speculating. So being a surfer, we'd live in the car, shower in a jacuzzi at a Hilton or something like that, and put on an Armani suit and go to work. I mean, it's fine if we were going to do $50,000, $60,000 or $40,000, but you don't know, and you still have to pay the promoter $2,000 at the end of the show. So we paid our dues, shall we say. Well, I always had a fondness for fishing. Started around age 7 fishing albacore, tuna, for fun. I worked with some of the leading sport fishing captains in the fleet. And I've always done this. So around 1998, I was selling a piece in San Francisco, and I had a big sale, and I went down to the harbor and I looked at this boat for sale. Well, I called the guy and they go, we just sold it yesterday. He goes, go to Half Moon Bay, which is 30 miles south of San Francisco. And there's a lot of boats there. Well, as soon as I went there, I saw a guy carrying up a radar named Jerry from Canada. And he goes, my boat's for sale, $3,000. And for me, $3,000 at that time was nothing, for the antiques. We had a lot of money, enough money to buy things. So what I did was I ended up buying this boat because why I was conserving all the money is you're only as good as in the antiques as your last piece. So, without the right pieces, you're nothing. So that's why most of my money went into the business. So then I ended up buying this boat in Half Moon Bay and started salmon fishing. And everybody was kind of at the end tail rope of their, fishing business there because it was really popular in the 80s for salmon. Then it was on a steady decline. So there's a lot of boats for sale. Ended up meeting a lot of people. There was another boat for sale that was $1,500 named the Kimmy Jim. I ended up buying the Kimmy Jim, and I ended up buying the Terrier for $3,000, and the Princess Eva, and one other boat. So the harbor master and all of them, they didn't know what to think, because I think I told them I was going to bring the boats to San Diego, but I never did. So what happened was I started fishing there for albacore, and they didn't believe me. They thought I was a drug smuggler, or they didn't know what to think of me. Here's some antique dealer comes into this harbor, with all these John Wayne speaking kind of guys, and they called my Gucci shoes pilgrim shoes. You know how they have the little thing here? They said, "Oh, pilgrim shoes." This was funny. This was really funny. Anyway, I had a fondness for albacore. It's just an adventure fishing for tuna. You're fishing 100 miles out. It's just unlike any other sport you could ever imagine. Going out there is just brilliant, 60 miles out, fishing on these underwater seamounts. But San Francisco is a very dangerous place. And a lot of people have died there, and a lot of things have happened over there. The wind is very windy. The tides are very high. And there's things like that, the currents that will just spin your boat around. And then the fog. The fog is very treacherous. So we have a lot of things that could have happened. So we really didn't do too well there. And after about 2 or 3 or 4 years, I kind of was on the tail end and kind of almost wanted to quit. So what I did was I kind of started, getting back into the antiques a little bit. And the only reason why I got into the commercial fishing full time was because I didn't have enough money for the antiques to fund the business properly. Because every time I bought something, it was 1, 3, 5, 8, 15,000 an item. Speculating you're going to sell it. Well, if you sell it right away, fine. But if you don't sell it right away, you're tied up a lot of money. So I figured there's 3 ways to make money. You could, be in the food business. You could be in the sex business, or you could have like a nightclub or a liquor business. Well, I didn't have the money for the liquor. I didn't know about the other businesses. Well, I said food. People have to eat every day, right? Yeah, so let's do the tuna. We'll take the money and we'll buy the antiques. Well, it looks good on paper, but Mother Nature's a different deal out there. So I ended up buying this boat called the Top Cat, and I wanted it. What happened was when the doctor, the Oakland A's, an orthopedic surgeon, owned it, and I told him I wanted to buy it on finance, and he didn't want to sell it right away. So about 2 years later, I'm down in Miami, and I just sold this fantastic painting to these Cuban decorators of this like jungle and African scene, guys with like just semi-nude girls, beautiful jungle, really a rare 19th century European painting. And I get this call from the doctor in San Francisco, and he says, "You still want the boat?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to fish anymore." Well, sure enough, he goes, "Well, what can you do?" I said, "Well, I just sold a painting. How about, $3,000 down and $1,500 a month?" So he said, "Well, okay." So anyway, that got me back into the commercial fishing as I was just trying to get out of it. Well, the best fishing in the world for tuna is up in Oregon and Washington. Everybody goes up there from Honolulu, San Diego, San Francisco, Oregon. They all fish for albacore up there. It's very, very good. In fact, they all sell to Starkist, and these are all the big boats that hold 20, 30, 40 tons. My boat was a passenger carrying vessel, a party boat, and it only could hold about 5,000 to 6,000 pounds. So we started selling fresh fish, sashimi quality albacore. And the buyers up there, they don't want to pay anything, 80 cents a pound and all that stuff. So we kind of call it cat food price. So I had some very big contacts in Los Angeles, Japanese guys and Koreans, huge place in downtown LA. Skid Row, LA, with the guy, a Japanese guy with a 45 guarding the gate. He opens the door. You go in there. There's 10 people in jumpsuits.